the original.
And we got another Shadows video. This is the one I was telling y'all about the Black Lagoon, what's hidden inside the restricted zone. And since the new Jurassic Park is coming out, I figured let's watch this one because I don't know. I was personally kind of hoping that the new Jurassic Park would be a little bit more horror movie, but it turns out that it's a more action movie, and so it's like, kind of disappointed, but super excited about the Spinosaur.
Original Jurassic Park, you see our
The
protagonist
Spinosaur Mosasaurus thing is gonna be cool.
Rom in the Land Cruiser, and this is where John Hammond says this.
The voice you're now hearing is Richard Kiley. We spared no expense.
Now, what you may not realize is that during this CD-ROM, the narrator actually says some pretty interesting things about the park.
Currently scheduled to be opened to visitors 6 months after the main park, the marine facility will offer more revenue generation opportunities and marketing campaigns.
That right there is pretty interesting, but if you look at all the official Jurassic Park maps, you
Bro, the fact they had a marine facility all the way back in that original Jurassic Park.
can see in every single one of them a lagoon. And not only that, several references to a marine facility. So what monster were they holding in this secret marine facility? Well, I've got them answers in today's video. So hold on to your butts because you're not going to want to miss a single bit of this. And today's video is brought to you by Squarespace, but more on them later. Now, believe it or not, there actually used to be an official map of Tour the Island website where you could basically look around Isla Nublar and all its facilities. Unfortunately, this has been removed for whatever reason, although there is a fan recreation which we can look at right here. What is extremely interesting to note is all the official depictions.
I wonder why actually, and why the new series hasn't like tried to like reuse those sites and stuff.
Of Isla Nublar
they really should
show a dark and mysterious lagoon. Not to mention, John Hammond himself says in this scene,
Adventurous guests, of course, can opt for our Jungle River cruise or for a...
None of these attractions are ready yet, of course, and then other rides will come online 6 or 12 months after that. Absolutely.
That means they had a Jungle River cruise. Basically a year out.
Spectacular design, spared no expense.
With that information, coupled with the Land Cruiser CD-ROM, the lagoon itself, and other elements in this old interactive map actually show a marine facility. But what could they actually be housing in this secret marine facility? Now, I'll come back to that in a second because Jurassic Park Survival also tells us something extremely interesting. The synopsis of this game tells us that it's going to explore all
Well, we know at the very least they had to have a freaking mosasaur, right?
the other areas of Isla Nublar, such as the hotels, guest resort, storage, riverboat rides, and potentially this secret marine facility. Now, at the time of this video's recording, it is rumored to be that this game is going to be canon to the Jurassic Park franchise. Even if it isn't, we still have all the evidence from the movie itself, subsequent media and websites all showing us that there would have been a marine facility. And I haven't even got into the cut and deleted content from the original Jurassic Park movie yet. Now, as John Hammond himself says, more attractions will come online 6 to 12 months later. You combine this with a CD-ROM saying exactly the same thing, it all points to one thing. That facility was probably nearing its completion, and the monsters / animals inside were reaching adulthood, ready to be displayed to the public in 6 to 12 months. Now, we'll come back to what was inside it in just a second, because the location of this...
Wasn't it factual that all the dinosaurs aged like faster, more rapidly?
Marine facility is extremely important, and it's worth pointing out here that the movie itself never actually mentions this facility by name or its location, but just like Jurassic Park, it has to be there, like a power source. Jurassic Park never mentioned its power source or where it gets its power from, but it'd be pretty evident that they're gonna need a massive generator and power source to power that entire facility, electric fences, cryogenic
Well, that's not true. Didn't that one guy, David Samuel L. Jackson's character, like his did he get eaten inside of the power generator when that one chick had to go turn the lights back on?
The electric cars and everything else in between. It's kind of told in other movies where the power comes from, and that's a geothermic power plant, exactly like on Isla Sorna. And it's exactly the same thing with this facility. It doesn't outright say there is one or where it is. We have to look at the other official...
See, something like this, a horror movie or a horror video game like this would be so cool, dude.
Media and sources, helping us fill in the sequence gaps just like that frog DNA. Now, if you look at the completely scrapped Jurassic Park animated series, which was going to be canon by the way, there's some ideas for scenes in the series, and one of these shows a plesiosaur pursuing Tim and Lex Murphy while they were in an inflatable boat. This in itself confirmed that they had ideas for the plesiosaur to be in Jurassic Park, and where would it be? in this lagoon/facility. It's also worth pointing out that this was not to be a kiddie show, and the only reason it was never made is because Steven Spielberg was meant to approve it, but he had grown tired of the great amount of merchandising and commercialization of Jurassic Park, so decided to go against the move. Now, some of these scenes featured in this animated series were reused in the game Jurassic Park.
I wonder what he thinks about the latest and greatest, like the modern day Jurassic Park, if that's the case then. Or Jurassic World,
One of
let's say.
these scenes features Lex Murphy scuba diving with a Tylosaurus. That's right, the Tylosaurus from Jurassic Park the game. Now, what is extremely interesting about this is Jurassic Park the game is considered soft canon, so you can take any events with a pinch of salt. But they have a marine facility, and they also have a Tylosaurus just like Jurassic Park the animated.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know. Maybe I forgot, because I'm pretty sure I've seen this video once before. I didn't know that the game was soft canon.
Series. So does that mean then that the Tylosaurus was actually going to
I guess when does it take place then?
be featured in Jurassic Park? Well, Jurassic Park the game isn't canon. Jurassic Park the animated series was cancelled, although did feature a Tylosaurus and was going to be canon. So from that series, we would have had a Plesiosaur and a Tylosaurus. These aquatic monsters would have had to have been kept in this aquatic marine facility. But there's a huge problem with this. Jurassic Park the animated series, as we know, was cancelled, so we can't effectively use any of them. But what we can use is stuff from other canon media. And one thing which is extremely interesting here is Jurassic World. Now, in Jurassic World, they feature a holoscape which shows all the dinosaurs in the park. I've talked about this before in other videos, but this holoscape actually features a Plesiosaurus. That's right, a Plesiosaurus in...
We got a Nessie! I'm telling you, bro, they still have so many dinos that they could work with.
Jurassic World. Now,
I feel like they didn't, like... For a series about dinosaurs, they didn't use nearly as many dinosaurs as they could have.
That doesn't mean it could have been in Jurassic Park, but if Jurassic Park and a marine facility had plans to have a Plesiosaur in Jurassic Park animated series, then shows up in Jurassic World, is it possible that one was kept in the marine facility, and then when they came and rescued the dinosaurs in 2005 for Jurassic World exhibits, the Plesiosaur was still surviving? I mean, all the other animals survived. If the lagoon was big enough, it could easily feed off all the fish which was in there. And coincidentally, if they did have a Plesiosaur in Jurassic World, where would it have been kept? That's right, the exact same lagoon, because that lagoon is seen on Jurassic World maps. And further to this, there was actually a planned scene for a Plesiosaurus pond to show up in Jurassic World, as you can see from these concept art and storyboards.
Oh, that's freaking dope!
That again was cat, showing again they had plans for a Plesiosaur. And where could this potentially have come from? Jurassic Park. But there is something absolutely huge which we're missing here, something I haven't even covered. But just before I get into that, I want to take a quick moment to talk about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Because as you know, I absolutely love Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform which makes it extremely easy to build and manage a website. It has everything you need if you're planning on opening your own dinosaur merch website, launching paleontology courses, or even blog about that time you went hunting for dinosaur fossils. It has everything you
I've been debating doing one of these websites, but like, what, for voice acting?
Need an award
just as like a little
everything up, so you can design a website quicker than hatching a dinosaur egg. I can't recommend enough
something to show off my acting chops
today. And then when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/shadows and use code shadows to get 10% off your purchase of a website or domain. Now, as I said, this next bit is absolutely huge. Now, I spoke earlier about an interactive map. That interactive map has since been taken offline and replaced with a fan one. Now, don't get me wrong, this Jurassic Park map is extremely accurate and potentially features things from the upcoming game, but it also features things from Jurassic Park the game, which we know is soft canon. So although this map may feature the marine facility and safari lodges, etc., which we're likely going to see in the upcoming game, it isn't the one we're looking for. And before we go any further, I'd also like to point out that the novel's version of the map doesn't feature any aquatic facility at all, but we're focusing on the movie universe here. Now, looking at the old interactive map splash screen, as you can see, novel's version of the map doesn't feature any aquatic facility at all, but we're focusing on the movie universe here. Now, looking at the... And before we go any further, I'd also like to point out that the novel's version of the map doesn't feature...
Oh! The novel, interesting. That's pretty cool, actually. How come I haven't seen this map? I should have looked at this map more often. Stegosaurus South, Sauropod Swamp, Carnivore Country, Triceratops Country, Hypsilophorodont Highlands, Safari Lodge, Visitors Road, Tunnel 1, Pool, Waterfall, a pool with a waterfall, and a lake, a mountain, site of Velociraptor Valley.
Feature any aquatic facility at all.
Yeah, in between the two mountains is Velociraptor Valley.
But we're focused on the movie universe
Yeah, the only thing they have is a moat and a North Dock, I guess.
here. Now, looking at the old interactive map splash screen, as we can see here, it looks exactly like the official 1993 brochure map from the movie, with a few differences. It has 5 blue InGen icons, which we could click and give us an interactive tour. And now in the movie version of the map, these parts were mostly empty. When you click on the icon though, however, it asks for a password. Now, in a reference to Dennis Nedry in the original Jurassic Park, when you type in please, the locations are revealed.
Hey!
God damn it! Hate this hacker.
And this is where it gives us our answer. because
That
it
guy, did he get
actually
eaten? Wasn't he eaten inside of a power generator room?
gives us a speech, which is featured in the CD-ROM, and it actually says this. Currently scheduled to be open to the visitors 6 months after the main park, the marine facility will offer more revenue generation opportunities, which is exactly what's said in the CD-ROM. And this is the really interesting part. Phase 2 PR and marketing campaigns are ready for approval. The Mosasaur will provide the star attraction as Jurassic Park's Devil from the Deep. So just like Jurassic World, they plan to have a Mosasaur in there. Now whether that's a Mosasaurus, like Jurassic World, or the Tylosaurus, like Jurassic Park the game, is unknown, because it just says a Mosasaur. Looking at Jurassic World, they had a Plesiosaurus, they had a Mosasaurus, they didn't have a Tylosaurus, but that doesn't mean one wasn't in there. Personally, what I believe was in this lagoon is a Plesiosaurus, but this map tells me it's a Mosasaur of some kind. But there is one glaring issue with this. Obviously, since the initial launch of this interactive site, it's been removed.
Out of curiosity, I mean, there's no way to tell, right? If they were able to cohabitate way back when in ancient times, but would it be able to house both of them?
The reason this was removed because for a time this website was considered canon and was obviously being used to promote Jurassic Park the game. Jurassic Park the game has since fallen into soft canon, and because of that, the website has been removed. So even though we've kinda just uncovered that they plan to have a Mosasaur in there, again, we can't really consider it canon, so we're gonna have to go on all the previous sources we've said earlier on in the video, which points towards a Plesiosaur. Based on the cat content from the movie itself, the animated show, the Jurassic World cat content, I'm more inclined to believe it was a Plesiosaur. But what do you think was in this dark, mysterious lagoon in Jurassic Park? Obviously, they had huge plans to have something in there. Do you agree with me, or is it something else? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button and subscribe for plenty more Jurassic Park and world content on the channel. And I'd like to ask you this: what was really kept in Jurassic World's restricted section? I have the video on that right here, and I highly recommend going and watching it right now. I'd also like to
Honestly, I hope it's a Plesiosaur, because we kind of already saw the Mosasaur, right? And I think if it's the smaller of the two, of the Mosasaurus, they could even be a Plesiosaur, like Ankylosaurus or whatever. What's the other one? The Mosasaurus, the smaller one? There could be a fight between them, and I think it'll be pretty dope. But what I really want to see, like, besides the lagoon as well, would be sort of like that. This sort of like.
So we're gonna have to go on.
Not
World
this, but the
Cup
image before
content.
this.
I'm more inclined. It moved time. They had a Mosasaurus, like Jurassic World,
Oh,
or
this
the
is a good image too.
Tylosaurus, like Jurassic Park the game, is unknown, because it just says a Mosasaur. Looking at Jurassic World, they had a Plesiosaurus, they had a Mosasaurus, they didn't have a Tylosaurus.
You see, like, seeing something like this would be freaking so dope in the movies. Having a more personal, sort of like alligator versus boat, or hippopotamus versus boat type of vibe. That
World
image.
maps. And further to this, there was actually a planned scene for a Plesiosaurus pond to show up in Jurassic World, as you can see from these concept art and storyboard.
I like this concept art. It looks so cool.
Here. That again was cat, showing again they had plans for a
There's like a freaking submarine, which is cool. And it's for the ichthyosaurs, the freaking dolphin, prehistoric dolphin.
plesiosaur. And where could this potentially have come from? Jurassic Park. But there is something absolutely huge which we're missing here, something I haven't even covered. But just before I get into that, I want to
Freaking amazing.
in this dark, mysterious lagoon in Jurassic Park. Restricted section. I have the video on that right here, and I highly recommend going and watching it right now. I'd also like to take this time to thank my YouTube members who are on screen now. Thank you very much, and a special thank you to DVM Wannabe 1018. You guys keep the power on in the park. I'm Shadows. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you.
It's not that long. Screw it. Let's watch the freaking restricted section one before we move on.
If you think you know what's inside Jurassic World restricted section, think again. This area is completely off limits to nearly everybody, even including Jurassic World staff, with next to nothing being known about its existence.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I don't think we've seen this one on the stream yet. Oh, there's a freaking part 2? Alright, let's watch all of them. Let's watch both. Alright, let's do it. The restricted section. So, the reason why I want to go over this is because I like these videos because it just shows you how much cool stuff you could see in Jurassic Park that they just haven't showed us yet. But there's so much you could. I didn't share this, by the way. Please go drop them a like, go drop them a sub. I'm going to share this video on the Discord as well as on the description below in the VOD. Phenomenal video from Shadows.
If you think you know what's inside Jurassic...
And now, I like this the idea of the restricted area. Because it's more of like the lake, it's more of like the rivers, the ponds, the lagoons, you know, the lagoon-like type of the marshes. So it's kind of like, ooh, I really like the idea of like a swampish type of area.
Off limits to nearly everybody, even including Jurassic World staff, with next to nothing being known about its existence or the secrets held within. Well, that is until today, where I expose what's really in the restricted section in Jurassic World. And today's video is brought to you by Squarespace, but more on that later. So hold on to your butts because this is gonna get wild. Now, we know there were many areas of Isla Nublar and Jurassic World which were never fully explored during the movies or Camp Cretaceous. For example, we knew there was an Allosaurus and Carnotaurus on Isla Nublar, but this was never displayed to the public or even mentioned in any of the promotional material, clearly indicating these were never displayed in the park and resided in the restricted section. But these...
That's a good point. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that the Carnotaur was actually not at all, like, told to the public about.
are relatively tame compared to what we got coming up later on. Now, the official documentation of what was in the restricted section was never released, but all the upcoming evidence I'm about to show you, we can definitely decipher what was in there. Now, we know for a fact Jurassic World never released a full dinosaur list to the public. That's evident with the Carnotaurus and Allosaurus, which begs the question, what other dinosaurs or reptiles were they hiding in their park? Well, we know they would have had Giganotosaurus DNA because they used that in the cloning of Indominus Rex. So if they had a complete genome, would that mean that they had a Giganotosaurus in the restricted section? I mean, if they had the complete DNA, why not clone it entirely? It would be a great attraction, right? The evidence...
Plus, you would be able to just, like, test to see, you know, as a proof of concept, so to speak. But there wouldn't be any reason not to.
Suggests they had the DNA. The Biosyn Sanctuary would have had to have got the Giganotosaurus from somewhere. Why not Jurassic World? But this isn't the only contender for what's in the restricted section, because some of the animals I'm going to feature will blow your mind. Now, one of my favourite theories, along with the Giganotosaurus, is the Spinosaurus being kept in the restricted section. Now, if you've seen Camp Cretaceous Season 4 and 5, you will know indeed that there was a Spinosaurus there. Now, the timeline for Camp Cretaceous Season 4 and Season 5 is 2016, meaning it's a year after the events of Jurassic World, meaning that Spinosaurus could have indeed been
Oh, really? Okay.
taken from Isla Nublar in Jurassic World, because we know Manticore were poaching dinosaurs off of there, and Isla Sorna. There is also other evidence pointing to the fact he was in Jurassic World, because we see a Spinosaurus holoscape in the Visitors Center indicating there was one present. Although there is a hole in this theory, because on Main Street we see a Spinosaurus skeleton, and many people have theorized that that is the skeleton of the original Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus. This has been debunked though, because obviously we see it in Camp Cretaceous in 2016. Where Scott himself, the showrunner, confirmed it was the same Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park.
Oh, really? I didn't know that! From Camp Cretaceous, the same exact Spinosaur?
3. So that skeleton cannot belong to the original. You could quite easily say that Jurassic World did clone their own Spinosaurus and it died from complications, thus this skeleton, or that the fact that they just dug this skeleton up, potentially with Alan Grant in his team. Who knows, Alan Grant could be in the restricted section. But on a serious note, there's even more evidence to suggest—
Now that is a good idea. They secretly cloned Alan Grant to make a super team of dino
it was on
archaeologists.
Nublar, because in a deleted scene for Fallen Kingdom, we actually see the Spinosaurus return, where it would have been seen in a scene during the eruption of the volcano. That's all
in Fallen
confirming
Kingdom.
there was a Spinosaurus on Isla Nublar, or at least planned to be kept in Jurassic World. Now this is extremely interesting and is indeed canon to Jurassic World itself. We all know that Masrani Global kept their little secrets and experimentations, along with hybridization of the dinosaurs, is seen throughout the movie. But what you might not know is that another dinosaur hybrid was also featured in our movie, Stegoceratops. It's seen on Dr. Wu's computer in his hybrid lab and was actually going to be featured in a deleted scene in Jurassic World. Now you might be wondering what actually is the Stegoceratops. It's exactly like the Indominus Rex really, it's a hybridized dinosaur, mixing Stegosaurus DNA and Triceratops DNA, along with various other animals thrown in there like the Indominus Rex for good measure. However, the full
What part of it was—
Wu's computer in his hybrid lab and was actually—
Oh, okay, I see it. Okay, I can see, yeah, because he kind of got the spike thing. What benefits does it gain from that, though?
going to be featured in a deleted scene in Jurassic World. Now you might be wondering what actually is the Stegoceratops. It's exactly like the Indominus Rex really, it's a hybridized dinosaur, mixing Stegosaurus DNA and Triceratops DNA, along with various other animals thrown in there like the Indominus Rex for good measure. However, the full species list of what makes up this hybrid is unknown and top secret, very much like the Indominus Rex and the human hybrid DNA, but we're not going to go into that. I've done that in detail on other videos. And in an early concept art, one Stegoceratops was actually going to be encountered by the cast in Sector 5, and Sector 5 is the restricted section. This scene, however, was cut from the final of the movie because they felt they didn't want to show any other hybrids on screen to take away from the impact of the Indominus Rex and it being special. But nevertheless, it was shown in Dr. Wu's lab and was in the restricted section. And if you think that was an insane addition, wait until you see what other ones we got coming.
Honestly, they really should have made like one, maybe two films that focused on the hybrids. Then went back to the classic dinos, I can't lie.
No, because as you know, Henry Wu was indeed engineering more hybrids than just the Indominus Rex, because he engineered the Scorpius Rex from Camp Cretaceous Season 3, and yes, this is indeed canon to Jurassic World. Now, Scorpius Rex, or codename E750, as it was shown to us on Dr. Wu's computer, was a hybrid dinosaur frozen and held captive in InGen's secret tunnels until it escaped. This was even hidden from Masrani himself. It was planned to be the first ever hybrid on display in Jurassic World, and when initially shown to Simon Masrani, he determined it was unfit to display and ordered it to be destroyed. Dr. Wu, however, had other ideas and actually put the dinosaur into stasis. And where was this located, you ask? Well, obviously, the restricted section. It eventually breaks loose and goes around the entire island, but predominantly, it resided in the restricted section. Dr. Wu also confirms that the Scorpius Rex was chronologically the world's first hybrid dinosaur, predating Indominus, and it also disproves the popular fan theory that the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3 was a hybrid, because the show's executive producer, Scott Creamer, confirmed that the Scorpius was Wu's first attempt at hybridizing dinosaurs, although
I like the theory that rather than it being a hybrid, the original Spinosaurus was simply like a not fully formed genus. Like, basically we had the Spinosaur DNA, but it mixed with like the frog DNA, just didn't quite come out right. And that's why the newer modern Spinosauruses are a lot more like they actually would be in real life.
Though Wu may not have had a hand in the creation of Spinosaurus, meaning it could still be the first attempt at a hybrid. Now, before I move into some of the darker and more heavy-hitting dinosaurs, I'd like to take a quick moment to talk about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform which makes it extremely easy to build and manage a website. It has everything you need if you're planning on opening your own dinosaur merch website, launching paleontology courses, or even...
Please go use this code if you would like to, but... No, I honestly do believe I like the idea that the Spinosaur was just like an incomplete genus, or like maybe they just didn't splice the DNA quite right, and they sort of assumed that's what it looked like until later on they found out that it wasn't quite right, and so they had to like fix the DNA or fix the gene. In fact, they could do like a quick little throwaway line and honestly fix that little plot hole, but you know, it is what it is.
dinosaurs that were kept in the restricted section in Jurassic World, believe it or not, was
Go back a bit.
Deinosuchus. 10% off your purchase of our website or domain. Now, one of the lesser known reptiles/dinosaurs that were kept in the restricted section in Jurassic World, believe it or not, was Deinosuchus. And you might be thinking, well, we don't see any indication of that in the movie at all. You're right, we don't in Jurassic World, but we do in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. In this scene here, you can see a Deinosuchus skull. And it has to be a Deinosuchus skull because the Sarcosuchus has a long snout, indicating that a Deinosuchus was present on the island, and we never seen promotional material for visitors to visit this reptile/dinosaur, indicating it was never on display to the public and would have been kept in the restricted section. I mean, it's dead there on Isla Nublar, meaning
It's funny because the more they record, the more bones, random bones and stuff that they put into the games, the more they're adding to the canon without knowing.
it would have to have been there at some point. And further to this, the Deinosuchus DNA was actually used.
I wonder if when they put that skeleton there, they fully like thought like, oh, okay, this confirms that there's Deinosuchuses on the island.
In several hybrids creation. So not only do we physically see a skeleton,
You know, like no doubt they understand that. Yeah, we just put an alligator freaking skeleton here, but what I'm trying to ask is like, do they understand the ramifications of putting that skeleton there? It means that there had to be a Deinosuchus enclosure somewhere.
we also know they kept the embryo. It's just a shame we never got to see
Or are they just
a
putting that there for
live
cool
specimen.
points?
Now, many people, thanks to Camp Cretaceous, believe that the Baryonyx was actually kept in the restricted section. This is not true. The Baryonyx was actually displayed alongside its relative, the Suchomimus, in the Cretaceous cruise in Jurassic World. But this next animal potentially could be, and is one which Baryonyx was actually displayed alongside its relative, the Suchomimus, in the Cretaceous cruise in Jurassic
Really? And you telling me people were kayaking with that damn thing? How does that work?
World. But this next animal
I get that they're fish eaters, but damn.
potentially could be, and is one which I find absolutely insane. And funny enough, it's never been featured in any Jurassic Park film or media apart from a toy appearance, Jurassic Park Chaos Effect. But what makes this so interesting
Oh, the
unique is that
Ultimasaurus.
it's the first ever attempt at a hybrid dinosaur, consisting of Tyrannosaurus Rex, Triceratops, Velociraptor, Ankylosaurus, and a Stegoceratops. And as we know, Wu was definitely experimenting with some dinosaurs such as the Stegoceratops, and others which were seen on his computer. Could the Ultimasaurus been one of these experiments? Especially with many fans noting the similarities between Ultimasaurus and the Indominus Rex, especially in terms of purpose. But ultimately, this isn't canon to the movie and is just purely a theory and have no real evidence to even suggest this in the restricted section. Now, one of my favorite
But it has such deep roots in Jurassic Park at this point. I feel like at some point they gotta bring him in.
animals, and I would love to believe this is the case and is in the restricted section, and I'm sure a lot of you will agree with me, is the Titanoboa. But you might be thinking, well, Shadows,
Yes!
is there any evidence to suggest that, one, was it ever kept on Isla Nublar, Isla Sorna, or even in Jurassic World? And two, would it have been kept in the restricted section? Now, Titanoboa featured in Jurassic Park Builder, Jurassic World the Game, and most recently Jurassic World Alive. Unfortunately though, these games are not canon to the Jurassic World universe, but that doesn't mean that InGen or Masrani Global didn't experiment with its DNA. We know snake DNA was used in the Scorpius Rex and Indominus Rex for it to be able to sense heat signatures. And let's face it, this would make an awesome attraction in Jurassic World if they were able to locate it and contain it properly. And let's not forget, we do see a snake in Dr. Wu's lab, although a very small one and not a Titanoboa. It could indicate that he had plans to create larger variants such as the Titanoboa for the park. Much like the Ultimasaurus though, there's no real evidence, and like all the other entries,
Plus,
to
it was
say
an
that it
albino
was in the
snake.
restricted section. As much
Bro, imagine if they come out with two snakes. One is an albino.
as I would have loved one to have been in there, my heart says yes, my head says no. But the next entry is completely different. Because if any of you have seen or played Camp Cretaceous Hidden Adventure, you will know that there's one massive dinosaur, the Tarbosaurus. Now, it is worth pointing out before we even get into it, that Camp Cretaceous Hidden Adventure is considered soft canon. But with that being said, it does feature the Tarbosaurus, and the Tarbosaurus would have to live somewhere. Now, the Tarbosaurus was a very close relative to the Tyrannosaurus Rex Rex in size, and also a massive skull which was 4 feet long. And believe it or not, it is actually featured in one of the movies, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, although it is just a background painting. And only the one Tarbosaurus was ever cloned during the years of Jurassic World, and it was never revealed to the public. And sometimes during the Jurassic World incident, the Tarbosaurus was freed into the wilderness of Isla Nublar, where she made a nest and laid multiple eggs. Now, spoilers here, due to the hidden adventure not having any confirmation of it actually being canon, the fate of the Tarbosaurus remains unknown, because there is an ending where she is killed by Rexy, and that would also explain her absence later on in any other media. Or an ending where she could have survived the island and was extracted later on and transported to the mainland. Failing that, she would have died in the eruption of Mount Sibo on Isla Nublar.
Oh, really? So there's 2 different endings for this one freaking specific dino.
And speaking of Camp Cretaceous, the Monolophosaurus.
No wonder it's soft canon. Okay, but if that's the case, and especially if they've confirmed that it's soft canon, I feel like that kind of just confirms to us that they could use it at any time they want. So it's really only soft canon until they decide they want to use it.
Saurus was also seen, and we know that didn't have a place in Jurassic World, so could have easily have been kept in the restricted section until its escape during Camp Cretaceous Season 3. And let's not forget the glaring obvious entry, the Indominus Rex, because we know Paddock 11 was kept in the restricted section away from the public, meaning that at some point they would have had plans to move it into the park for guests, because no guest would ever be allowed in the restricted section. And something else which was extremely interesting is that Masrani Global lied to the public, saying that it was cloned in the Hammond Creation Lab. Now, the Hammond Creation Lab is open to the public, and this was completely wrong and incorrect. It was actually cloned in the Field Genetics Lab. So if they can lie blatantly to the public like that, what else could they not be telling us and was kept in the restricted section? And where did they birth the Mosasaurus? Could they have other aquatic dinosaurs or creatures we haven't even seen yet? Marine reptiles? I highly recommend checking out all my other videos to answer some of these questions. I'd like to say a massive thank you to my YouTube members which are on screen now, especially William and DVM Wannabe 1018, as well as Petersaurus Rex for being a member for 33 months. You guys really do keep the power and fences on in the park. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this video,
and
hit the like button and
too.
subscribe. And can I solve every Jurassic Park related mystery? You bet Jurassic can. Catch you later.
Absolutely phenomenal video as always. There is a part 2 to it, and I actually want to check that out. I really hope there's freaking Titanoboa, because honestly, I think we could see some really freaking cool scenes. Like, sort of like, think of the horror movie Anaconda. We could see some really cool stuff if there was a freaking Titanoboa there. That'd be so freaking dope. Okay, I left here.
If you've watched part...
Okay, there's a part 2. Let's immediately jump right into it. Please go watch the other video. Left the links in the description and all that good stuff. Let's jump right into it, and then we'll move on to something else, because I want to at least get one more video done before, because we're starting to get, we're way past time already.
Part 1 of what was in the restricted section, you might think you know what was in there. Well, think again, because in this video, we fully explore what was in the restricted section, everything which was hidden from the public, and I'm going to expose exactly what was in there. So grab yourself a Gamer Subs, hold on to your butts, because this is going to get wild. Now, we know there were many areas
I got it ready and
that were
sipping.
never explored during Jurassic World or Camp Cretaceous, hence the restricted section. Now, it's worth pointing out that I am not going to be featuring all the dinosaurs and animals I featured in part 1. This is going to be a completely new list, and some of the dinosaurs featured were completely hidden from us during the movie. And one such dinosaur was a legendary dinosaur which featured massively in the original Jurassic Park, and that's right, it's the Dilophosaurus. We know it was on Isla Nublar because it was in Jurassic Park. It killed Dennis Nedry, right? So where is it then in Jurassic World? Because we know it features in the holoscape. We also know that the guy in the gyrosphere talks about Dilophosaurus venom.
Your safety is our main concern, which is why you're behind our invisible
Yeah, but that's Jimmy Kimmel. I don't trust that fool for nothing.
barrier system, which protects you from things like Dilophosaurus venom.
Indicating the Dilophosaurus was somewhere. We know that the Dilophosaurus was never held publicly in Jurassic World. It was not even listed on the official website, and in the book.
Yeah, but if it wasn't held publicly, then how come Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, how come Jimmy was talking about it?
mock the evolution of Clay, she actually confirmed that there was a pack of the animals in the park during 2004, implying they were taken off public display at some point. And where were they being held, you ask? Well, the restricted section, because we also know that Jurassic World vets were trained to treat a common fungal infection in the folds of their frills. And not to mention, Darius in Camp Cretaceous Season 3 actually encounters a Dilophosaurus.
Wait, and how do we know that? How do we know about the fungal infection in the frills?
And draws it in his Jurassic World field guide. Now, there's some extremely interesting dinosaurs on this list, and one of them is the Ceratosaurus. Now, we first see the Ceratosaurus on Isla Sorna, believe it or not, in Jurassic Park 3. So then how would a dinosaur on Isla Sorna feature in the restricted section on Isla Nublar? Well, when they were stock in Jurassic World back in the early 2000s,
That was the one that was like sizing them up when they were in the poop, right?
they were taking dinosaurs from Isla Sorna, and one of those dinosaurs was the Ceratosaurus. And we know this to be true because we see the Ceratosaurus in Camp Cretaceous. But the Ceratosaurus was never officially featured on any Jurassic World list. That's because it was kept in the restricted section. Because the restricted section was used to house the most dangerous dinosaurs, and dinosaurs experienced genome testing to make them more stable life forms fit for the public. And that's where some pretty horrific and strange dinosaurs come into play. Now, I'm not going to talk about the Indominus Rex because we know the Indominus Rex was in there, the Scorpius Rex was in there, and if you want to know all the details, etc., check out my other video. But one dinosaur we know is canon to Jurassic World,
The
wasn't in
Troodon!
the films, but would have had to have been somewhere, was the Troodon. Now, I know what you think.
Creepy bastards, I freaking hate them in art.
The Troodon is from Jurassic World, the game, right? So, and we know that's soft canon. So how can it be canon to Jurassic World and the movie franchise? Well, there's actually a Troodon featured in Jurassic World, the live tour, and the live tour is canon to the Jurassic World movie franchise. And the only place on Earth they could clone a Troodon
You gotta be freaking kidding me, is that actually true?
would be Jurassic World. We know it was never featured in any media, wasn't on display to the public, so would have been kept in the restricted section. And if it's anything like the ones from Jurassic Park the game, it's best to keep them and leave them there. But they are not the only creepy, dark things on the list, because there are a few more. And as you know, in the restricted section, they were up to some pretty dodgy things, creating the Indominus Rex. And to make the Indominus Rex, they needed various genomes. Now, some of these genomes I featured in the other videos, such as the Giganotosaurus, etc., and we have evidence to back up they were actually cloned. So then it got me thinking, did they clone the other animals in the makeup, such as the Therizinosaurus? Because we know they cloned the Deinosuchus, because that was from a deleted scene in Fallen Kingdom, as you can see here. That was part of the Indominus Rex. So would they have cloned the Therizinosaurus then? Because we know they would have the complete genome to build the Indominus Rex.
I still gotta watch this one. This one looks sick.
So surely they would have cloned the animal, right? And you might be thinking, well, they have it in Jurassic World Dominion. Unfortunately, the one in Jurassic World Dominion was actually confirmed to be cloned by Biosyn, not poached from anywhere else. So if they did have the Therizinosaurus in Jurassic World, the only place it would have been is off limits from the public, not publicized anyway, and in the restricted section. And something else which is extremely puzzling is this holoscape which you see here. And on this holoscape, it features several dinosaurs which are not promoted in Jurassic World or on display. And one of them blew my mind. But just before I reveal that, quick reminder, keep yourself hydrated, get yourself some gamer subs, use the link on
Oz ashes.
screen now and code SHADOWS for 10% off your next order.
That's
It's
a real
great
flavor, actually, I don't even know.
way to drink more water and keep yourself hydrated. And speaking of water, that is where the next animal comes from, believe it or not, because on this holoscape, you actually see what looks like a plesiosaur. Well, not looks like, is a plesiosaur. And as you know, there was no plesiosaur featured to the public in Jurassic World, although we did see a Nothosaurus in Camp Cretaceous Season 4. That was on Manticorp Island. And as we know, Manticorp were poaching dinosaurs off of Isla Nublar and also stealing genomes because they were using Sami to steal the genomes of other dinosaurs and deliver it to Manticorp. So it's highly likely that A, they poached this off Isla Nublar itself, or B, got the genome from the animal directly from Sami. Not to mention, it was never revealed where they birthed the Mosasaurus, and they would need an aquatic unit for that. And if you look at the restricted section carefully on the Jurassic World official maps, you'll see a body of water that could easily house some other dinosaurs. Not to mention, in the original Jurassic Park, it was planned to have a Plesiosaurus pond where they would tour it on a little boat. And even further to this, which is extremely interesting, is in deleted concept art, they actually plan to have an underwater, like, submarine explore a lake with
I still think they can make a really cool scene in a movie out of this.
plesiosaurs and ichthyosaurs in there, meaning they would have had to have had those plesiosaurs somewhere, birthed them somewhere, and where else? The restricted section. But we're not done there. Sticking with the aquatic theme, we also know that Jurassic World Evolution 2 is releasing a DLC pack, and that features a megalodon, believe it or not. Now, we know Jurassic World Evolution 2 is not canon to the Jurassic World movie universe, but nevertheless, it's extremely interesting. Am I saying they kept a megalodon in the restricted section? No. We've never seen a great white shark or anything above in any zoo in the entire world. And that's because they simply cannot live in captivity for various unknown reasons. And speaking of evidence and the horror,
These unknown reasons, they need to consistently and constantly keep moving. Otherwise, they suffocate to death, and it's just not easy to do that in the pool.
escape, if you look closely at that, there are several other dinosaurs.
They also
which
don't
are on
handle
there
stress
as
very well.
And I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of it, but let's give it a go. The Alaphosaurus, the Critosaurus, the Leslosaurus, the Nipposaurus, all of which were on the holoscape, but never featured in Jurassic World. So it's highly likely they were using these for genome
Anyway, did he say the Nipposaurus? What was that?
testing or the makeup of other hybrids in the future, such as the Stegoceratops, and were kept in the restricted section. And something else which I found extremely interesting, and I never really even thought of at the time or even watching the movie, and was housed in the restricted section, believe it or not, was the Velociraptors. And I'm not just talking about the Raptor Squad, which I'll come back to later, I'm talking about actual Velociraptors from the original Jurassic Park and from Isla Sorna. We know that Masrani Global cloned several Velociraptors as part of the Ibris project. Some of them were terminated for various reasons, and the others went on to form the actual Raptor pack, Blue, Charlie, Delta, etc. But as we know, they were poaching dinosaurs off of Isla Sorna. The Quilled Raptors, for example, from Jurassic Park 3, the Tiger Raptors, these would have all have been brought to Jurassic World. They couldn't be displayed to
Yeah, I didn't think about the quilled ones. That's pretty freaking dope. We should bring
the
those
public
back.
and would have had to have been kept in the restricted section. We know they used Velociraptor DNA in the makeup of hybrids, so it's highly likely there were other Velociraptors featured on that island. Not to mention, we see other Velociraptors in Camp Cretaceous Season 4, poached directly from Isla Nublar, confirming there were other Velociraptors in the restricted section. And further to that, all the dinosaurs so far have been backed up with various evidence, apart from the theory Xenosaurus, to show that they was featured in Jurassic World and would have been part of the restricted section. This next one, however, is slightly more mysterious, although does feature in Jurassic Park itself. And it is a personal favourite of mine, and that is the Tylosaurus. It's very much like the Mosasaurus, but slightly different in design. Now, this was part of Jurassic Park, the game, and was going to
And I think they're overall smaller, right? I feel like they could get away with doing a lot more with this guy.
feature in Jurassic Park 3, but was later cut, or at least hinted to some type of aquatic animal. We know Masrani Global and Jurassic World would have had a huge aquatic facility for the Mosasaurus, the Plesiosaurus, the Nothosaurus, so there is potential they could have cloned a Tylosaurus like they did in Jurassic Park, although there is no evidence to support this apart from Jurassic Park the game and the deleted Jurassic Park 3 aquatic animal. But nevertheless, I wanted to bring it to your attention anyway. And if you haven't already, I highly recommend checking out part 1 because it features dinosaurs and animals which are not part of this list and are all backed up by evidence to prove they were in the restricted section. Check out the video here. And if you did enjoy this video, hit the like button, subscribe for plenty more content like this, and there's loads on the channel. I'd like to thank my YouTube members who
I generally think that they should bring back some of the more, like, especially in the Hollow, whatever the frick it's called.
Ibris project restricted Cretaceous Raptors and was housed at the new look of the universe world evolution, meaning they would have had in is in deletion in the original Jurassic. Look at the restricted section carefully from the animal Sammy to Steve Season 4. That looks like is
Here we go. Let's see if we can get a better
a
one.
plesiosaur. And speaking of water, that is where the next animal comes from, believe it or not, because on this holoscape, you actually see
Really could bring quite a few more of these. Of course, we got the Mosasaur, Pteranodon, Tyrannosaurus Rex, but like the Pachyrhinoceros, they could bring in to like with the headbutts, he could mess up some vehicles, some cars.
what looks like a plesiosaur. Well, not looks like, is a plesiosaur. And as you know, there was no plesiosaur featured to the public in Jurassic World, although we did see features.
I think the Troodons is like a pack, could be a menace in the
the
cities.
makeup of other hybrids in the future, such as the Stegoceratops, and were kept in the restricted section.
Bro, that would wipe out entire species of Doge. Like, you kidding me?
Something else which I found extremely interesting and I never really even thought of at the time or even watching the movie and was housed in the restricted section.
Honestly, Titanoboa is still the number one, choice. As far as, like, what would have been in there, or what I want to see be brought into the series. As far as, like, what was existing in the restricted zone that they brought back, that they bring back into the movies, you know? Freaking love it. What a phenomenal video. Please be sure to go drop Shadows a like, go drop him a sub, all that good stuff. Go drop a comment too. He freaking deserves it. Phenomenal videos by Shadows. He has some newer stuff too that's come out, so please go and check that out as well. Let me check real quick. Let's see if I got one more before we get out of here. Ayoo, Monodachis! Thank you so much for watching this video. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You can also find links to the videos that we reacted to today down in the description below, along with my Oshi marks. I'll see you in the next video, Monos. Goodbye, and thank you so much for swinging by. Sadu!